tasty, high-protein meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Get some at biltongusa.com. Use code VIVA for 10% off. I talk about Biltong every day. It's not a sponsor of the show, but I know Anton. He's got a show called Eat at Anton's on Rumble. Based in Texas, South African born, value added to American society, and he makes one hell of a mean Biltong, which is South African beef jerky, and I just got my shipment yesterday, and it's delish. All right, next topic, people. Back to Trump, and back to idiots on the internet, and back to situations where, if I'm wrong, by the way, I don't mind being wrong. I actually like being wrong for a couple of reasons. One, it lets me show that I don't have too much of an ego to admit that I was wrong, and oddly enough, that actually builds trust over time. Always being right, or
about 3.1
that you were right, does not build trust over time. It actually erodes trust over time. The debate of the day right now is who is right and who is wrong. This is Donald Trump. What I believe to be Batman slapping Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed. Can't fire him because apparently you can appoint these guys and you can't fire them until the end of their term, which ends in May of next year. Trump arguably, I'm going to call it Batman slapping instead of bitch slapping because that's much less crass. I just want to bring back up my meme. This is Trump Batman slapping Jerome Powell, not just on why are you so over budget, you people from the feds, on renovations, and over budget by the money doesn't make the difference here. It's the percentage of the budget. Over budget by 25, 30%. Just happens to represent $500+ million. But with the Batman slapping Jerome Powell by saying, why are you so over budget? And I'll play it, and then we're going to talk about it because I went and did some homework to understand the purported fact checks and to be able to retort to the shit that I took on Twitter for calling Gavin Newsom an idiot. And if I call someone an idiot on Twitter, I better be able to deal with being called an idiot on Twitter. If I call someone a moron on Twitter, I better be able to deal with being called a moron on Twitter, which I am. And if I'm wrong, I'll correct.
About 3.1 billion, went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
look at Powell's face. Sorry. He just for a second reminded me of my grandmother, but okay.
About 3.1 billion, went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
Our entire capital.
You just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Do you expect to be screwing up even more beyond what you've already screwed up?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve.
We're ready for them. Of course you are, you Fed jackass, because you're spending other people's money. We're ready for another $500 million overrun because it's not our money. What do I give an F?
Reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So
here's the fact check, and I'm gonna poison the well, or at least preemptively persuade, just to cause you to focus on what many people are not even digesting in this exchange.
5 years ago, we finished Martin 5 years ago.
it's part of the overall work.
It's part of the overall work. All right, I'm gonna leave this one here. Now, you know what? I'm going to give you the link to this one. I'm going to leave this one. It's part of the overall work. So Donald Trump has the Fed chair guy there, Jerome Powell, talking about renovations that they're doing to one of the Fed buildings, Federal Reserve buildings, and they are $500 million over budget as of now. And Trump comes out with a piece of paper, pulls it out of his pocket, and says, "No, you're up to $3.1 billion." And then Powell's like, "What are you talking about? We're not over that much. We're only over by $500 million." And you get the fact checkers out there saying, "Oh, Trump is including the renovations on a building known as the Martin Building, which was completed 5 years ago, in the overrun of the current project, And he's such an idiot. He's confused, is what Gavin Newsom said. And I said, my God, Gavin, you're a moron. He's right. Then I have to deal with some here. Let's see if we can, how far back we can go. So you can't go back. The other building, I'm not trying to put this guy on blast. I'm highlighting that I enjoy having arguments with people who call me stupid. The other building was completed 5 years earlier, so it wasn't included in this budget. Trump erroneously said that the other building was being built. Oh, that was a lie. He erroneously said something in common parlance. It's not being built. It is built. That was a lie. Get out of the world's dumbest cult. So I go and look at this. I got to look up a little bit. Okay, you got to make sure you know what you're talking about. If you made a mistake, you'll correct. Fed staff members cite tariffs and inflation for costly renovation. A sprawling $2.5 billion project to renovate the central bank's headquarters in Washington has become the focal point of attacks from the Trump administration. This is from the New York Times. The explanation for the cost of the project came on a nearly 3-hour visit to the site hours before President Trump and top White House officials were set to visit the Fed to view the construction. The $2.5 billion project, which started in 2022, has ensnared the Fed chair Jerome Powell in controversy and given the Trump administration another way to try to discredit his management of the central bank. Yeah, nothing like being the head of the central bank and being years behind schedule and hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. Yeah, no, but you're good. You're good. Enjoy your life of extravagance while you manage other people's money. Trump and Powell stood awkwardly next to each other in the White House, wearing hard hats. Yeah. The president, first of all, capitalized that P, you jackasses. The president presented Mr. Powell with a new higher cost of the project. It looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit or a lot, Trump said. Mr. Powell closed his eyes and shook his head, explaining that the additional cost was related to the Martin building, another Fed office that was renovated 5 years ago. Remember what it's all part of the same project. Here's the renovation on the Martin building. Yes, I asked a loaded question. Did it go over budget? Yes, the renovations for the Federal Reserve Board's Martin building in Washington, D.C. is significantly over budget. The original budget was $2.7 billion, but the latest estimate's $3.1 billion. We're with ongoing concerns about potential further cost increases. I'm not sure if they're mixing up stuff here. And the bottom line, can you imagine saying, look, we're not over budget on this project because we were over budget on the last project? Moron, you're stupid. You're wrong, Trump. You're confused. We're over budget on this one, despite being over budget on the other one. That's like saying to someone, you idiot, I wasn't pulled over for DWI, it was DUI. Oh, no. We're over budget this time, and yet it has nothing to do with the fact that we were over budget the last time. To which Trump is pointing out this is all part of a bigger, broader renovation project encompassing multiple buildings.
We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
It's part of the overall work. You can agree with that or disagree with that. But the bottom line is Trump is right yet again. The wordsmiths of the devil are going to say, no, Viva, you're stupid. You're in a cult. They're only at $2.5 billion on this project. It's not 3.1 because it doesn't include the Martin building. All right. So you're over budget on this one. You were over budget on the last one. It's part of the overall work is what Trump's point is. And the Fed, who he's Batman slapping in front of the world to show that A, he can't do his job, B, he can sure as hell spend other people's money like it's cotton candy, and C, trying to get that reduction in the federal interest rates at hand. And people don't understand that Trump, in as much as he even made a mistake, which I think it's semantics, essentially true, although maybe, the budget for this building wasn't 3.1. Yeah, but it's in my mind, as president, it's all part and parcel of broader renovations, and you've screwed up on all of them. Some people are suggesting it's to set up Powell for getting fired or pressuring Powell to reduce the Fed interest rate. From CNN, you got to know what your adversaries are saying. How Trump is building a case to fire the Fed chair. Explained. A version of the story appeared in CNN's okay. The Federal Reserve is an independent organization. Independent or autonomous are two different things, meant to be insulated from politics. It's neither federal nor a reserve, so let that sink in. And the Supreme Court suggested this year that President Trump would need a reason or cause to fire Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Well, being substantially over budget on multiple projects over time, costing taxpayers billions of dollars, it's a good reason. So Trump, who has repeatedly expressed his anger at the Fed chair for declining to lower interest rates on Trump's watch, is building one up with the help of aides. It has nothing to do with monetary policy or interest rate incompetence, but rather an over-budget renovation of the Federal Reserve complex, including the historic Mariner Eccles building alongside whatever. Read that again. It has nothing to do with monetary policy or interest rate incompetence. I'm sorry, being over budget might not be monetary policy as relates to broader monetary policy, but it does have something to do with monetary policy and the inability to respect budgets and deadlines. And we can go on, but that's what basically is the building. Okay. So you got it. It's either building a case to fire a man for mismanaging money, which is a good case, and he's building it quite well, if I do say so myself. Pressure to cause Powell to reduce federal interest rates, which some people believe there might be some political motivations for not doing. Insulated from politics means that they get to, if they have ideological inklings, do what they want to politic without any accountability to the American people. That's what some people might argue that's going on here.